Hello and welcome to the channel. And what am I up to? I'm in the workshop today. What am I doing? I'm trying to sort my kit out. When I say sort my kit out, we've had 2 fishing sessions recently. Both have been a bit traumatic. One on Southbourne Beach, which is a sand beach. I blanked. Everyone else around me was catching. Significant size rays, sole, plaice, bass. And no matter how many worms I drowned, I didn't catch anything. I blanked that day. And just to top it off, just to rub salt into the wounds, just as I was packing up, I had a rattle. And it was a teaser rattle because there was nothing on the end. So what am I up to? I'm trying to get sand out of all my kit. That's the number one. And last night, through to the early hours of the morning, we fished at Hope's Nose in Torquay. And we got weathered out. So we knew it was going to be strong winds. We thought we'd be sheltered. Just as it was getting dark, we made a last minute decision to abandon the session because it was just too much. It wasn't fishing. It was hard to fish. Not that that's ever stopped us anyway. And we were losing kit. We were losing rigs. And I lost 2 sets of kit in short succession. So I lost shock leaders and like nice terminal tackle, and we just weren't configured for the conditions that were there. So I think it was a wise choice to leave that one. But what's it done to my kit? It has absolutely trashed it. It's everything has had to been washed, brushed. All the sands had to be taken out. Over 2 sessions I've used a total of 6 reels, 2 rods, multiple terminal tackle rigs, and I'll show you what I've got. So I'm just oily rag FS365. You've all seen me use that before. It's worth saying that this is getting into more of a long-term test for FS365 now. When I say long-term, 6 months of continuous use. I've used 1 litre, and the last time I bought it, it was £8.99. I nipped off to the motorcycle shop this morning and I've bought myself another litre, and now it's £9.99. They're diddling me. I really like this stuff, really good. So why do I even bother putting that on? I wash all my kit in fresh water with a little bit of detergent. Detergent as in dish soap. Don't use a lot of it, just use 1 or 2 drops. You've got to be careful because there's salt. But what you'll also do is when you're washing your kit in fresh water from a bucket, everything you're washing and rinsing, you're increasing the salt content dilution in the water that you're washing with. So by the end of what you're washing, the last thing you wash, you're washing it in salty water. And that, you've got to be a little bit careful. So you need to change your water quite regularly. And then allow everything to air dry. So I've put a paper towel in one of the trays and everything in there is air dried out. But then I wipe it all with a cloth that's just been sprayed in FS365. And then it gets stored. So those now will get stored away. They won't rust. And they'll be good, free to use, ready for the next session. And I've shown it a little bit of love. Shown it a little bit of love that I'm going to show everything else. So that's the first thing. Next one on my agenda for stuff that I really need to look after and I hold quite highly in my tackle box, set bait scissors. And these are Mustad bait scissors. They weren't expensive, quite reasonably priced. They've got a lot of leverage. So there's only a short amount of scissor with a lot of hand, and there's a lot of room to get your fingers inside so you can properly get in and get amongst stuff. Good for crab, cutting the heads off of sand eels, splitting mackerel, because you try and cut mackerel with a knife even if it's sharp. Bait scissors, seriously, £3, £4, something like that. Get them online, get them from your local tackle shop, support your local tackle shop. Good stuff. bait scissors, they're not going to rust. As you see, I've got a bit of a bee in my bonnet about my kit rusting because it all gets covered in salt water. My knife, all the nasty gubbins and juices and bait and everything else has all been washed off. It's been allowed to air dry properly, but before it gets put away and stored, it gets a wipe with that. It's perfect. I've had that a long time. Little bait loaders, little Yuki twin bait loaders, just the metal working parts right into the join where they go into the plastic, because that's where they'll rot out. That's where they'll rot out, and that's where they'll split. No corrosion on those, they're perfect. I needed this last night. Hung on my tripod, swinging in the squally winds, 30-35 mile an hour squalls it was last night. For unhooking specifically congers and straps. Really good bit of kit. Disgorger. Disgorger, not quite a T-bar, but it's the same sort of theory. Line clippers. I've always got 2 pairs. They're that important to me, like little toenail scissors. In fact, if you go to a tackle shop, supplier, online, whatever, and buy line clippers, you'll pay a lot of money. If you get Solingen, made in Germany, quality toenail clippers or fingernail clippers, you'll get them cheaper and they're better quality. Much better stainless steel than the cheap versions that you'll get that have come straight from China or wherever they've come from. Not that Chinese don't make some good stuff, but most of it's cheap. And I'm going to get right up close to the camera now to show you. Nail clippers, line clippers. Look at the difference in the stainless steel. Can you see? Highly polished, less likely to corrode, all a little bit rough, just doesn't look as good a quality. See that when it focuses in? Cheap nail clippers, really sharp. Expensive line clippers, not as good a quality. Line clippers. And I've got my usual amount of camera gear. It's sort of, that's the mount that I use for my phone. People are quite interested sometimes in how we film and what we use. This stuff is suitable for plastic, so it stops it from drying out. I don't know if you realise, I know you're all very clever people and all the rest of it, but the plastic has got a certain amount of oils inside it. When it dries out, you know when you see car bumpers go from black to grey, that's like the depletion of the oils in the plastic. If you go over it with this kind of stuff, and I'm not saying it's the cure-all for everything, but it helps to look after your kit. Neutralises salt, lubricates, preserves, and even things like plastics, it rejuvenates, looks after them. This has got sliding parts to it that I need to be careful, make sure that they don't seize, and that it's dried out, correctly air dried out. And last but not least, in my little tray of loveliness, my little Innova bait elastic holder. I love it. It's one of my favourite things. Really tactile, perfect hand size. It's been cleaned, it's been washed. And it's had some love with the cloth. So that's that tray complete. And believe it or not, that's like what I'm talking about. When the plastic starts going grey colour, starts to lose its gloss. It loses its characteristics. This stuff's good for that. It leaves no residue. That's why it's so good. I personally like it. I like it a lot. My rods and reels are going to get a certain amount of attention in a minute. But even things like my bait tray. So I'm going to move the camera now and show you the carnage that is my workbench. And it is carnage. It's absolutely, the whole workshop is absolutely chock-a-block with stuff. There's stuff everywhere. And then we'll get on and do some stuff because we've got some jobs to do, and I thought I'd share them with you. So these Shimano's took a bit of a kicking last night, and I was talking to Colin about it. He highly rates these Beastmaster reels. I've been using them for quite a while, and I sort of fell out of love with them, to be honest. I'm just checking to make sure that there's no standing water in these reels, which, to be honest, they did. I didn't realise how much of a kicking they took last night. Poor reels were quite exposed on the rock mark we were on. So what I will do, it's almost like a ceremonial thing now, cracking open a fresh bottle. Switch it to fine mist. There we go. That's the good stuff right there. Yeah, I haven't washed these reels because I don't like exposing or getting them, you know, to any water that I don't need to get to. If they're really dirty, these ones were used on a rock mark, so they only got wet and abused last night, if you like. Left out in the open, it was raining and squally and all sorts of nasty stuff. The multipliers, however, were on a sandy beach, and sand is the number one enemy. The grit and stuff in the sand gets absolutely everywhere. But with a bit of just a little bit of care and a little bit of love, I'll give these reels a bit of a wipe over. Just looking to make sure that there isn't any grit or sand in any of the working parts. I don't know if you can see, my bench is never like this. It is absolute carnage. I'm prioritising what I'm working on so I can work my way through it and clear some space, because there is literally stuff everywhere. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the pens out of the way, because looking at them now, I did clean them. They have been ready for storage. And all I've got now is a separate clean, nice dry cloth, just to buff and wipe, and without anything being wet or having that preservative on it, because you don't need to leave it on. You can sort of wipe on, wipe off, if that makes sense. So that reel still needs, I think, possibly to be left out so it air dries out properly, because I think there's some water's got in quite deep into that one. Lovely action on these reels. I don't know if you've ever used these. The only thing that I have found with these reels is when you throw the bail arm with the anti-reverse on, sometimes when you cast it throws the bail arm mid-cast. That isn't good. But if you take the anti-reverse off and throw the bail arm, it always latches fully open. I don't know why it does that. I don't know what is going on, but it is a thing, because I did check the internet, the font of all knowledge, and there was records of it happening to other people as well. And a nice tapered shock leader. So the other reel, funnily enough, I lost both shock leaders on the same reel. It's almost like one side was playing up, one side wasn't. But I'm going to show you how I attach, especially at sort of short notice on a beach. There's loads of different ways of attaching a shock leader, but I'll show you how I do it, and obviously you can make up your own mind as to how you would do it, or even quite possibly in the comments give me some advice on if you think there is a better way, a different way. But yeah, we'll attach a tapered shock leader onto the other reel so it's ready for the next session. This is F1, Ultra F1 mainline and tapered shock leader. I think it's £18 mainline and it's 18 to £70 tapered shock leader, and it works really well. Absolutely casts like a missile. It goes really well. Casts very nice. Been really pleased with it, to be honest. Good combination, that is. So this is the one, the reel that we need to add a tapered shock leader to, and a Trident Termalink, which is the way I like to attach my rigs. So yeah, so this one's just going to get a little bit of love. And a quick wipe over with the cloth, just so it's just a little bit of sand there. Look. I don't like, well, I wouldn't submerge my reels in a bucket of water. I'd quite happily rinse the spools off with the spool remove under like a slow running tap. But where possible, I prefer to keep my reels clean and tidy by wiping over with a cloth, or if they get sandy, to go over with a soft brush. That's a cracking little brush, that is. Decorating brush, don't know what it's for, but I found it at some point and it's mine. It's mine. So yeah, and a little bit of polishy love for that reel. It done its job last night, done a cracking job. Let's attach a shock leader to this, shall we? Get a shock leader on this one. With £18 mainline, it's quite nice to have an 18 to £70 tapered shock leader. And this is Rovex Surf. I'm not 100%, I know, but why are you putting it on? I'm not 100% with this one. Is it amazing? Would I buy it if I had other choice? I'm not sure. I'm going to take, with this tapered shock leader, I'm going to take the first 50-60 centimeters with my German high quality nail clippers, cut it, remove it. It goes in my line reclamation bag that I'm going to take down to the tackle shop, and I'm just pulling some main line off the main spool, and that's what we got. We got a tapered shock leader, an £18 mainline, and this is exactly like it'd be on the beach. You've just hit a snag, gone to pull it in, you've snapped it, or you've cast and for some reason something's gone wrong and it's cracked off, or one of your knots has failed. Okay, so you're left with having to put a new tapered shock leader onto your main line, and it really is very simple. For your shock leader, you literally just tie an overhand knot, and that isn't anything different to how you start tying your shoelaces. I've literally just tied a knot and formed a loop. Okay, that is as simple as that. Now then, what we need to do is, when you look at the knot, the tag end comes out like under the loop, and the main line or the main shock leader comes out over the loop. Where they've crossed over, they will come in or out. You need to feed your £18 main line in the same way that the line lays. So you need to come through the eye of the knot, either under or over, depending on how you've tied your knot. And when you look at it, it will become very obvious. So what you've got now is you have your main line, your tapered shock leader, with your main line going through the overhand knot you've tied, and you just need to cinch down on that overhand knot. Just a little bit, not too mad, not too crazy, and pull your main line through. If you now pinch where that knot's been formed, you will form yourself a little loop that you're going to use in a minute. And you just take 6 turns, 5 or 6 turns, lost count already, with your main line, working up your shock leader. I might even have done 7 there, I don't know. 6, 5, 6, 7. And you remember that little loop that you pinched? It's just like a blood knot. You just pass your tag end of your main line back through that little loop. And then you just start to gently cinch it down, and you see it all start to form. What you need to do now is that overhand knot in the shock leader, it needs to be not ridiculously tight, but it needs to be cinched down. And as you start to draw everything together, it needs some lubrication. And just watching the knot dress and dress down, just pull it all down. It's all cinched down nice. I'm going to cut the tag ends really short now. Cut the tag ends really short. And if I'm concentrating and breathing hard, at least I haven't stuck my tongue out yet. And there it is. Really hard to see, I know, but tapered shock leader knot. Overhand knot in the shock leader, for want of a better word, a blood knot in the main line. And you'll find that will fly through the eyes of the rings in the rod really nicely, and it shouldn't clatter too much. Now I know that is one of different knots, because I use different knots as well, but that's the quick one that I do on the beach at the time if I have a failure there. What else to use? Well, on my multipliers at the moment, I've got a double blood knot. I've just tied a blood knot at either end. That makes for a really tidy knot. I'm just loading this tapered shock leader onto the spool, and then what we need to do is to put a termalink on the end. So now all my pre-made rigs are terminated with a swivel Gemini 80 pound, I think it's 80 or 85 pound swivel at the top of the rig, and then at the end of my shock leader I put a termalink, and I've got 2 different coloured termalinks. And the reason why I do that is I put blue on one, yellow on the other, so if I have any problems or need to remember something that's happened about that reel on that fishing session, I can just remember that it was on the blue one. Because with the pens they look the same, with the 525s they look the same. Fortunately with the Shimano's the reels are different colours. Yeah. Trident termalinks. I really like these. I tried to be honest in all my evaluations, because I realised that some people might watch this and go, oh, he really likes those, they must be amazing, I'll go and buy some. And money's important, isn't it? And I don't want to give anyone a bum steer. So I am now, because money, you know, we work hard for our money. There's my termalink. I've just passed the line through. Now I don't know what this knot's called, but where that knot is thick and quite hard to work, a blood knot would be too big. So I know this knot now as the Sandman tackle time knot. All credit to the guy, he uses it all the time. I don't want to steal his ideas, his thunder, but this is how I tie it. So 1, 2, 3 turns. Back through the loop you formed next to the terminal tackle. 1, 2, 3 turns. Form the knot. Just check you can see that it's forming correctly. I need something to pull against. So one of the things that you can do is if you use a lead and just link your terminal tackle one, wet the knot and cinch it down, and it forms like a little beehive, I think is my best description. Just make sure it's all down nice. That's a cracking little knot. That is a cracking knot. It's good where the line is quite thick like it is there. And you don't want nothing too bulky. So that's the Thermalink on the end of the shock leader. So that spool, just going to check, make sure there's no sand or grit in it. I don't like using line clips either, really. I think they put kinks in the line. But out of sheer convenience, I am going to use it on this occasion. And I'm looking for my nice cloth. So my nice cloth, just going to make sure this spool is dust free, sand free, grit free, and put this one all back together. I don't like leaving line long term in a line clip, so I'm actually going to use a little bit of insulating tape, remove it from the line clip and just hold it down with a little piece of insulation tape. Electrical insulation tape. I prefer that to a line clip. When I wrap something round with the insulation tape, and because it might be cold and wet and nasty on a beach when you come to rig your kit again and you're going to remove that tape, I actually turn it back on itself at the end to make a tab that isn't sticky. So then you've got a tab there, look, and you could just peel it off, put it in your rubbish bag. One thing I did notice from where we fished last night, and I'm not going to preach, this is just for conversation purposes. It was absolutely abused, this fishing mark. People were defecated. I know, it sounds bizarre. There was loo roll, beer cans, boxes that beer had been stored in. I can't even begin to explain. I picked up handfuls of line from where we were fishing last night. At least a dozen sections where people had cracked off, just scrunched it all up, and it was left there. There was wildlife there. There was a family of seals that lived there. There was lots of seabirds and all that kind of stuff. There we have it, all prepped, ready for next use. So I'm just going to do the same with this one. Put a bit of tape on it. Yeah, so just talking about the rubbish. It was a very hard mark to get to, a really steep walk, and that walk was called, I'll try and get this right now, I think it was called Cardiac Hill, because it gave you a cardiac arrest because it was so hard. But to carry a lot of other people's stuff out, or to get people in to do a litter pick, looked almost impossible. So it's just important that people took their own stuff. What I can't get my head round, and it is turning into a bit of a rant, isn't it? I don't want it to be a rant. What I can't get my head round is it was heavy carrying it all there, and the empty rubbish would have been really light to carry out, but they chose just to leave it there, and that just doesn't make any sense to me. Surely if they want to go again in the future, they'd want it to be found clean. You know, it was a beautiful, beautiful venue, absolutely ruined by what people have done to it. And it's sad, you know. It is sad. You despair a little bit. You despair a little bit because you think, we're going to lose all this. This stuff won't be ours in the future. It will get banned. We won't be allowed to use it. We'll have local council restrictions placed upon us. You know, all those kind of things. Because it will happen. It will happen if people keep abusing it like that. So that's the two Shimanos. Both got tapered shock leaders. Both got Thermalinks. Both just got tape holding them as a temporary thing. These will get used fairly soon. I don't like leaving tape on long period. The pens, fully loaded up with braid. They're stored, ready to go for next time. They've got their own bags to go in, but the bags are air drying at the moment. I don't want to put them in damp bags. And then the next one, I love these. These are amazing. And if you like this kind of thing, you're going to like these as well. Look what I've got. Oh! They're so small. You're used to using the pen big thick spools. Then look at the little weenie. Look at the... And his spinny, spinny wheel. Look at that. Loaded up with £14 mono. Rovex 10X. Lovely stuff. Recommended to me by Clive, my fishing buddy Clive. It's got its Termalink with the Sandman type knot. The 3 turns through the loop, 3 turns. Yeah, what a beautiful little bit of kit. So I was saving these for my new rods. I've had a bit of a issue with my new rods. Don't want to go into any real detail because it's not really that important yet. It might be in the future, but it's not yet. Yeah, look at that. What an absolute little peach. Lovely. I am casting, because I'm not amazing, pretty rubbish. I'm casting full mag at the moment, magnetic dial on the end. But I'm just going to show my new reels. They're not even really dirty. They had a bit of sand on them from fishing off a sandy beach the other day, which I've lightly brushed off. But start as you mean to go one. Nice soft cloth, a bit of the magic liquid. I hope this is working out for people, because I know for a fact people have messaged me. Some other people have bought that cleaner stroke preservative on my recommendation, because it's not meant for reels and rods. Excuse me, rods and reels and all that other stuff. But I've used it, and I've long term used it, and I like it, and it works well. So I've just shown these a little bit of love, and then I'll show you what else I got. So these are dry. They've now had the cloth of love. Oh. And then I've got something for these. A little treat, so to speak. Where did I hide them? Oh, here they are. What have I got over here? I sound like I'm talking to Jasper the fishing hound. Look what I've got. Oh. It's a little dinky bag, just made for these. It's a little dinky bag, specifically made for multipliers. And this was quite strange actually, because when you go to order these, it was totally counterintuitive. These are extra small. I'm fairly confident of that, even though I've cut the tags out because the tags were annoying. But you could put the little bag on, look, and still have it attached to a rod, because that bit's still exposed. But yeah, neoprene stops them getting knocked and bumped about. You know I like my reel cases. I like to look after my kit. I've got little bags, little natty bags for my little lovely reels. How cool is that? So this other reel is a matching pair. Needs a little bit of love. It needs just the same amount of love. A little wipe over, a little bit of a clean. Just check it visually, make sure nothing's untoward. Give it a good going over that. Getting all the little nooks and crannies. Yeah, so last night, where we were fishing, there was a family of seals. It was daddy seal, mummy seal, baby seal. And it's not the start of a joke. I'm just going to explain what he was up to. He was a little tinker. In fact, I'm going to cut to a clip of him in a minute, and I'll give you a shout when I do. Yeah, family of seals. So he watched you cast out. We were replenishing our bait during the daylight hours, mackerel, for a future fishing trip we've got planned, and we need a lot of mackerel, something in the region of about 400. Gives you some idea about the volume of mackerel we're going to need, and to buy 400 mackerel would be quite cost prohibitive. So last night, replenishing stocks, we caught about 100 mackerel. And Mr. Seal watches you cast out, and if you retrieve and you're not hooked into any fish and there's no bend in the rod, he just sits there and watches you, just taking it all in. As soon as there's a bend in your rod, he swims away, submerges, comes round the back, and then follows your fishing, and then just plucks it. He doesn't get hooked up, he plucks it by the tail off your line. because that's a lot easier than chasing fish. Let someone else catch them for you and then just give them to you. And he kippered us a couple of times. Very clever. I thought it was very clever. Beautiful creatures. So what I'll do now is I'll cut. I'm just going to put this in its bag. I'll cut to Mr. Seal. You can have... Little bags of loveliness. The pens need their bags. The Shimano's are going to feel a little bit left out. Shimano's, we haven't got a bag. I need to get some more bags, and I need to be able to bag up the Shimano's. And these are all going to get stored. One word for storage, I think, is probably worth touching upon. I know a lot of people haven't got like a man cave like I got here, and a nice big workshop, and you know, room to chuck stuff around and load a bench up and all that kind of stuff. But you might have a spare room, or room in your bedroom, bottom of a wardrobe. Big plastic bins with lids. You can get them from DIY shops and places like that. And they stack. I use them even in the workshop. Stackable plastic bins. I've got one just with all my terminal tackle reels. So these are now going to get stored in my seat tackle box. But all the other stuff that's my selection of choice that I can come and go and select. I'm going to take these 2 reels today. No, I'm not. I'm going to take these reels today. I put them all in a big plastic bin with the lid clipped down. Even if you store it in a shed or an outhouse or something like that, it can't get damaged. And it's in there, it's clean, it's tidy, and it's ready for selection for next time. I pack my seat tackle box the same way every time. I select different kit, but I pack it the same way. So the left tray always has my hook box, which is just a selection of hooks. What it also has, here comes the cheap plug, I always carry, especially when I'm on the beach and I get talking to people, spare stickers. And stickers are available to buy for the channel. That's a shameless plug, that, isn't it? But I keep them in my hook box. They're always on with me. If you want to buy a sticker, just give me a message, give me a shout. We'll look after you. So, hook box. That always goes in. Big items first. My Nicky Nacky New box. That has just got all my Nicky Nacky News in it. And that's got things like imps, Trident tackle, Gemini clips, Gemini pulleys, beads, all that kind of stuff. Nicky Nacky New box. So between those two, hook box, Nicky Nacky New box, and hooks, I should be able to make pretty much whatever I need. But we need to make sure that all our stuff's stored nicely. So a little bit noisy for the camera, I know. It's all about, right, so I always put one set of nail clippers in my Nicky Nacky New box. I always put the other set of nail clippers, Mark can't find them, where did I put them? I've got more chance of losing it on the bench in front of me than I have if I put it in my box. My other set of nail clippers goes in loose. So regardless of what happens to me on a beach, what happens, you know, with putting stuff down, not being able to find it again, which is a common thing. 2 sets of nail clippers. And then the next most important thing, so that's just a bake tray all loaded up with bits and pieces. Just going to put that in the top of the box for now, because I'm going to go and grab something. We have talked about this before, but not really gone into too much depth. Head torches. So I always carry a backup head torch that uses just normal standard batteries, not rechargeable, although I've considered buying rechargeable batteries for it. That would be my backup. My lovely one that I've sort of saved up for and invested in recently is a Fenix HP30R, and I'm going to model it for you. Oh, look at that. What an amazing head torch. She's a bad boy. She's got a little tail. The flippy floppy tail. So it's got a tail, which plugs into a battery pack that you put on your belt. That goes on your belt. So you haven't got the weight of all the extra batteries. And it's got, and I'm going to show you them now, 2 honking great big rechargeable batteries go in that battery pack. So there's 2 batteries in there, and I've got 2 spare. The beauty of this is you can charge your phone with it. So when you're on the beach, you know, you get to that point, early hours of the morning, you want to tell everyone about the 3-inch ting you've just caught, and your phone's nearly dead. You can plug your phone into that as well, and carry spare batteries. How cool is that? And I bought a smart charger. What's a smart charger? Well, a smart charger is a charger that's clever. So I'm going to show you what we got. We got a smart charger. So at the moment, I've just plugged those 2 batteries in. The smart charger's doing its thing. So it can read milliamps, the time it's taken to charge them, and the voltage. And the voltage should be 4.2 volts, 4.2, 4.21. But it conditions the battery. So if you want to run it right down and then charge it right up, this doesn't overcharge or damage the batteries. It lengthens the battery life and it improves the battery performance. So a smart charger, quite important. If you're going to invest all this money into a really nice head torch, don't scrimp on the charger. The charger will make something that's amazing, super amazing. I really like it. I'm going to take that off my head. So what else have we got? So we've done a tapered shock leader. We've done a bit of love on the reels. I need to show the rod some love. I've got special little boxes for my batteries, so they can go in the box and I know they're not going to short out. If you're putting batteries loose in your box, in your fishing tackle box, remember that salt water is conductive. So if they was to get salt water, they would short out and it would damage the batteries. So either put them in a case or wrap tape around the terminals to insulate them so they don't discharge or short out. We're getting somewhere now. I'm starting to tidy up a little bit. This is amazing. I thought I'd just show you this. I know it's irrelevant to what I'm doing. Look at the colours on that. It is a Pichenko surface popping lure. So as it comes along, it jigs and jags from side to side and it pops and doos and does its stuff. And I've caught on that already. It's cracking. It's got a little ball bearing inside it. What I've seen people do to stop themselves getting hooked up with the trebles is if you put the hook to the body and the hook to the body and wrap a little elastic band around there. So you've only got 2 hooks to consider and they're not flapping around the place. Does that make sense? See how I've just put those hooks? I'll drop one, drop the other one. You've got 2 hooks to contend with there. If you drop it to the body and put an elastic band around there, and that goes in your tackle box, it's all a lot safer than just leaving them flapping around. Good stuff. Pichenko surface popping lure for bass. Absolute killer. Love it. Something else I'm quite keen to show you, and I'm just getting them now. And this is something that's, I'm always adjusting my fishing. You see it on the channel, we do different stuff. Grip lead, 4 ounce, what is it? I never get the grams and the 125 grams, so that might be just under 4, just over 4 ounce. Continental leads. And these are like rubber coated, see that? Rubber coated lead weights with the swivels shrink tubed at the top to reduce snagging points. And I may get this slightly wrong, but as I understand that, 3.5 about 5, about 6 or 5.5 ounces in weight, and they're brilliant. Fishing on sandy beaches, you can actually disturb your bait. So reel in a little bit, everything moves, gets the fish's attention. He's like, what was that? And goes for it. Continental weights. Nice addition to anyone's tackle. Not expensive. A little bit more expensive than a plain lead, but they're not prohibitively expensive. Here we go. So I've got a Leader Icon tripod, 6-foot tripod, and I've also got and that's fixed. It's just a fixed tripod. It's quite reasonably priced as far as tripods go. And all I've got in my hand now, I'm just giving them a little bit of love, just because they have been used quite heavily, is the bottom cups. The bottom cups from the tripod. And way back, it's quite embarrassing this actually, way back, I think it was one of the Chesil videos, I lost a piece of my tripod and just by sheer fluke found it. And if you know the shingle at Chesil, it is massive, it goes on forever. And I just had a quick hunt around where I'd been and I found the piece that I'd lost. It fell out as I was walking across the shingle, and it was that piece. It was the piece that holds the other two parts of the tripod. So you have one leg at the back, 2 legs at the front, and when it all folds up, they clip into that. But without that, this whole piece can't clamp to the tripod. So if you've lost that one little bit, this bit is, you can't use it. And I recently fished with Nick Mann, and he went, oh, I said, you got the same tripod as me? He said, yeah, and I've modified it. What have you done to it? He's like, well, I watched your video and you lost your little bit. I didn't want to lose my little bit, so I put a bolt in it. That was about 6-7 months ago, and I just hadn't got around to doing it. So thank you to Nick Mann for embarrassing me into sorting out my dodgy bit in my tripod. It works a treat. I copied exactly what you did. I don't know if you did the same bit inside. I'm just coming up to the camera now. Where the bolt goes through, I added the little nut that you can see inside. It gives me a bit of adjustment. I can tighten it all up. As well as the bolt holding it in place, the nut adjusts it into the right position. Works a treat. It's only plastic. Try and match the bolt size as close as you can, and then just screw the bolt in and it will make its own thread. Don't need a tap for that. But yeah, I got around to doing it and I've used it. Thank you very much, Nick. It works a treat. So I'm battery charging. I'm not going to wipe my rods down yet. Everything else is air drying. The bags are hung up. Traces have been washed. That's about me, I think. That's about me for today's workshop video. So I know it's been a while. I appreciate your company. Talking to you guys, the time's flown. Really like it. So we've done a bit of stuff, prepped my kit, showed it some love. I'm going to carry on doing some little tinkering in a minute, but I think it's time for a brew. Time for a brew and a chocky bicky. I think Mrs. W's made some cake. So it might be time for a cup of coffee and a bit of cake. So that's it from me. Thank you for joining me. Tight lines and happy fishing, and I hope to spend some time with you again soon. Bye for now.